She's April.
And she's Molly.
And we are
the Book Besties. I need to tell all of you gather round.
An annual Twilight watching is required.
I'm pretty sure that's like literary foreplay.
How else do you win favor amongst the group without showing them your glorious penis?
Spice talk.
Okay, do the foot job.
Oh, so this yin and yang is Molly and I.
Hey!
Season 3! Molly!
Never shit together. Like
Season 3!
Nobody's moving. Nobody's got any crazy life shit going on.
I mean,
Okay, asterisks. Dot.
Yeah.
You're starting a new job.
I am starting a new job, yes. But yeah, we're in season 3, and I can finally share how I almost moved to Ohio.
Yeah, it's about damn time. This story started like in the freaking winter. So like,
yeah. So I mentioned
I'm gonna get comfy for this one. Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was our last episode of season 2. I think so. I mentioned that I had been looking for another job since like February.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working in a middle school, and now I'm going to be back at a public library. But I actually interviewed for 4 different jobs. I withdrew my candidacy for one of them, which I can't really talk about that one because it's kind of it's a secret library job, so I can't really divulge that one. But
the mouse will come for you. No, not that kind of secret. I'm kidding.
It's not a Disney thing, but it is a military. It is a military contract, so I'm not going to go into that. But I interviewed for 3 other jobs in 3 different states. One was in Florida, one was in Ohio, and one was here in the coastal Virginia area. And I turned down the one in in Florida pretty quickly because they weren't going to negotiate salary.
No.
And they do not pay librarians, public servants in general, enough in Florida to live in fucking Florida.
Right.
So I did turn that one down. But the one in Ohio was in a rural county, and it's kind of the dream job for me. I would be the children's librarian for the county. And
they negotiated too.
They still didn't meet me where I wanted to be, but they did negotiate my salary. And the cost of living is less than in Ohio than where I live in Virginia. Actually, the state of Virginia is like one of the higher cost of living states in the country. And I live in the coastal side of it. So yeah, it's a lot here. So it was going to be comparable for us. So we were all set to move. We actually pulled the kids out of school a couple of days and went for a second round interview in person and showed the boys around because I've talked about this before.
Y'all started house hunting even. Like
we did. We started house hunting. I talked about this before that my oldest son is autistic. And so like to transition him to a different state, like that was just going to be hard. So we did the things to try to make that easier. And I was offered an interview with the job here in Virginia while I was in Ohio. And so I actually interviewed shortly after my Ohio interview. And as it turned out, I had already accepted the job in Ohio, thinking I did not get the one here. And lo and behold, they came through with an offer and agreed to meet my current salary, which is just amazing. So I'm not even taking a pay cut. It is a little longer of a commute for me, but like, I don't care. I love audiobooks. And like, I actually prefer, I know people think this is crazy. Although Nurse Katie has agreed with me on this. I actually prefer those 30 to 40 minutes in the car by myself. Like it helps me I like center myself. Yeah.
I miss it. When I was commuting from Bay Cliff to Houston, when I was stationed at the sector, it was my quiet time. Yeah. Like, I wasn't responsible for Coast Guard babies, and I wasn't responsible for my babies in that window. It was just me, the road, the rest of the world. It left me alone.
And my commute when I had a very lengthy commute in Florida and Texas that was like an hour in both of those places. And like a lengthy hour commute in Texas can be like right down the fucking road. Like,
right.
The traffic in
Houston is 20 minutes away from Houston in Texas.
It's stupid. It's stupid traffic.
It's
you can drive from one side of South Houston to North Houston in like 2 hours. Like, it's stupid. But like, I don't mind a commute. And so actually when we were looking in Ohio, we were looking at places that were about 45 minutes, 50 minutes from where I would have worked. I think I would have been happy there, but I'm really happy that we're staying put, that we do not have to move.
I'm happy you're staying put.
I know. Actually, one of the things I said was like, Molly just moved 4 hours away. I haven't even seen her in person yet. And now we're going to go move to a different state. But
I mean, I love you, but that's not when we moved here. But I'm so glad you're close.
I know. We still need to work it out. Besties, we are trying to work it out that we can actually film in person. Like,
yeah. We're trying
these days. We're trying.
It's just
but I am starting a new job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually, when we are filming this, it's just a couple of days before I start. But when this episode premieres, I'll have been at my job for about a week. And so, because we have to film ahead, like Secrets of the Pod, right? So, but I'm very excited. I'm still going to be a children's librarian, but instead of being like the children's librarian for the county, I will be the children's librarian for one branch. I actually have the exact same responsibility load. It's just that I'm in a much bigger city where I'm going to be than where I was going to be in Ohio. And I'm not going to release that city because one of the things we do is we talk about, we live in a state. We never release our cities. We don't really talk about specifically where we work. And
I mean, you people will find us eventually. That's how the internet works. But we'd like to keep our
my students found me, but
well, that's a whole nother fucking problem. Don't mind me. I'm just suggesting. Sorry. New season,
I missed you.
Same Molly.
New season, same Molly. I missed you.
I missed you too.
I honestly got a little bit of chills when we said the intro there.
I know, because it's been a while. It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah. And also, one of those weeks at the end of that season, you weren't even around. Like, we had Katie filling in.
I know. So, I'm still tired, by the way. I have not had any real sleep. Like, I went from COVID to COVID recovery to travel.
Yeah.
Back into work. And, like, I love this work, so I'm not complaining one bit.
Right.
It's just, your homegirl's tired.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like, I have been enjoying 2 weeks of not working, and so I've just been reading like crazy. So, like, I actually...
Guys, she's already in season 4. Like, let's not lie. She's already done with the season 3 book.
That's not true. I've read all of the July books, plus an extra book, which was a sequel to one of the July books. And now I'm reading a series that we're not even covering until December because, like, I just have time.
I don't want to... look what came in the mail. It's so pretty.
It's so pretty.
For those listening to us on audio, I'm holding up Cats and Yammer from our friend Chessie.
Our friend Chessie. Francesca Zappia.
I had did the pre-order and got the book and everything, but the artwork's beautiful. It's just, look how shiny it is.
That is so beautiful.
Francesca, my love, you should be very proud. This is gorgeous.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Gorgeous. I love it. And I had to show it off. I had to show it off first thing. I had to.
Oh, absolutely. And, like, I love that there's going to be, like, some stuff that wasn't in the... We had arcs for that book because she came on our show.
That's why I got this, because I wanted to see the artwork.
Yeah. I mean, she's so talented.
Damn talented.
She's been doing these Instagram reels. I think she actually does them on TikTok and posts them to Instagram. But as we've established, you're on TikTok and I'm on Instagram. But she's been doing these things where she's been talking about, like, herself as a child. Like, she does herself as a child and herself as an adult. And she's talking about turning Monstrous Sea into a graphic novel. And I'm just like, please do that.
Lord.
I would read the hell out of that.
I think everybody would.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. My kids...
I want to read Monstrous Sea. Like, I want to read
everybody wants Monstrous Sea.
Yeah. Monstrous Sea now.
Monstrous Sea now. Anyway. Hashtag Monstrous Sea now.
Hashtag Monstrous Sea now. And Chessie will actually be back on this season for season 3. She's going to come in. We're not going to actually read one of her books. One of her favorite books.
Right.
And we're reading Station 11. And I'm excited because that's actually one of my, like, top tier books too. And I don't think you've read it, right?
Maybe.
Oh, well, if it didn't make an impression on you, then you haven't read it because it's
That doesn't mean anything. I have the memory of a goldfish. You know that.
Yeah, well, okay.
The ADHD is strong with this one.
Fair enough. So today we're kicking off July. We're doing like poolside, beachy, like we're doing reads that are like, you know, quick,
romancy, kind of light, fun.
Yeah, light fun. Which I've just like I've been basically reading porn by the pool. Like this is what's happening.
No, hashtag no judgment.
So I feel like there's judgment. But today we're talking about Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is the first Emily Henry that I had read.
First one, too.
And I immediately went and bought The People We Meet on Vacation. And I had already pre-ordered and received Book Lovers. And I'm putting Book Lovers on season 4, Molly. It's happening. Like, I'm obsessed with her now. This book was just like, oh, okay, well, I'm giving too much away. So how about I do a synopsis?
Let's hit it.
Okay. January Andrews writes Happily Ever Afters. Her college rival, Augustus Everett. Oh, that name. That's amazing.
It's a leading man name for sure.
It is. Writes serious fiction with very little happy. When January's dad dies suddenly, she is left with his lake cabin and the knowledge of his ongoing affair with a woman who shared it with him. In a weird twist of fate that would only happen in a rom-com, Gus is her next-door neighbor. The two reconnect as writing partners for the summer, both attempting to win a bet for who can sell a book written in the other's style. Along the way, there's a lengthy cast of characters, family secrets, and unrequited flames rekindling. The book is grumpy sunshine, enemies to lovers, second chance romance, and a fantastic slow burn. Also, there's good sex, so there's that.
And a miscommunication trope.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you cannot have a romance novel without miscommunication.
You can't have enemies and lovers without a miscommunication trope.
I think it's just like another book that we read for this month, which I know you haven't finished yet, so I don't want to give too much away, but I was like reading it and I told Tom walked in, he was like, how's the book? I was like, well, we've reached the miscommunication trope. And he goes, okay. Because he just knows. Like, that's where we are now.
I was finishing this book on the plane ride home in like the last 4 hours, and I hit a sex scene, and I literally just pulled an earpod because Matthew was sitting with the girls in the on the aisle across from me, and I just pulled the earpod out and put it in his ear and just made him listen to it. And then I paused it, took it back, and he's like, hey, I wasn't done with that.
I'm pretty sure that's like literary foreplay, Molly.
I just like screwing with him because he never knows what I'm going to give him, right? Nice. Sometimes it's a murder scene. Sometimes it's like scary monsters. And then sometimes it's just a sex scene randomly.
Yeah. Random.
I love that Matthew Biggs just kind of goes with it, and he's like, "Okay, cool, let's do this."
I keep seeing this series on like floating around on Bookstagram.
We don't talk. Bookstagram or
Bookstagram is not good for us in season 2, but Beach Read is one I saw on Bookstagram, and that one was good for me. But the Planet Barbarian, Ice Barbarians, or something like that, and I know
that one yet.
You haven't seen that, so. No. It's not, I don't think like that kind of romance would be my jam, but like Tom loves like alien porn. So like,
did you give him the one we posted on our book club?
No, I didn't.
That one? You should get him that one.
Like, I'm not even,
or whatever.
I'm not even embarrassed to say that my husband likes alien porn, but I keep trying to convince him to read that book. Like, I think he would like it. But anyway, he's not been reading lately. It's been like mostly nonfiction stuff. He hasn't been reading fiction lately.
If I'm caught up for pod, I take reading breaks. Mm-hmm. It helps the ADHD.
Well, I took a reading break yesterday because I had just read like 3 books in 4 books in like 7. A week.
Yeah.
Oh, it was like 4 books in a week. And so I watched Twilight.
Yeah.
It was time.
No shame. Zero shame. An annual Twilight watching is required, but you have to do it consecutively. Necessary. You have to watch as many videos as you can, movies as you can before you fall asleep, and then when the kids go to bed, you pick back up where you left off. That's exactly how we do it.
It was already too late to watch more than one of them, so I'll watch the other ones today. But
it's a millennial must-have. It is a millennial must-have.
Yeah, Listen, I know it's terrible. I know the acting in the first movie and the direction is bad.
We know.
I'm still going to fucking watch it.
Because we love it.
Every fucking time that that Edward stops that van and that look he gives to Bella, fuck. It's hot. Okay, it's hot. All right, should we do questions? Because we're 15 minutes in. This is the first episode of season 3. We're already a shit show.
It's fine. Let's keep
I feel like at this point, people know what they're getting into.
You know what?
With us.
Before we start into the questions, I'm going to drop my hot take, and then we'll go. I don't like Robert Pattinson. Okay. I don't think he's Edward. Look,
I'm okay with that. I thought you were going to say something against this book, and I was immediately.
Oh no, like, I do have angry words for this book. You're going to get mad about, but that's beside the point. Let's jump into the questions, and then we'll go get into it.
I mean, I gave it a 4 out of 5, so I'm not going to rate it perfection. Okay, I get it. It's not perfection, but here we are. All right, so first question. Let's start this off. This is the first Emily Henry for both of us. Yes. So did you like her writing style? Will you read her again? What do you think?
Okay, so we are going to get into my beef real early.
You know what? Fuck you.
There are times I like her writing style. If I'm giving her writing style a rating from 1 to 10, I'm going to give it a 7.5. Because...
Okay, when you get to the 3rd book of this month... I think you'll change your rating.
Okay, that's good to know. My beef with it is she does really great in describing, right? Yeah. But there is times where the descriptions just go on and on and on. Like she's just like the editor goes, look, this part of the book needs more detail. And so she leaned heavy into that. And like the whole thing when we're talking, they go to the camp and they're sitting there and like she's talking about she literally does all of the 5 senses. When an author is told to write with the 5 senses, it doesn't, look at me guys, I need you guys, my young authors, to hear this. When they tell you to write with the 5 senses, it doesn't fucking mean all 5 senses. It means to put description in. It is not a literal statement. Do you guys hear me? Look me in the eyes. Tell me you hear me.
I just want authors who are writing sex scenes to stop including smell. I don't need that to be part of the sex at all.
I like the way she progressed the story. I like the love. Like tropes can be hard. Period. Tropes can be hard to write. Tropes can become very cliche. She did that very seamless. She did the family dynamic and the family struggle seamless. She did the pain seamless. But there are just times in this book. There's like 3 or 4 times where I was just like, okay, rambling on. Let's pick this up.
I feel like I understand that there would not be a story if it weren't for like her dad's like secret love affair, but I felt that took away from the main story. And so like I don't think you need the affair for him to have given her the cabin. Well, that would have still led her there and been next to Gus. So that was the reason why it wasn't a 5 for me, because I thought that story was not necessary.
So that story is supposed to give her a parallel for a minute, right? Because she realizes that Gus is in a marriage too, and she's technically the other woman, just like her dad's got. You know what I mean? So there's a parallel there that she's. It's a light one, and it's
such a loose parallel.
And it's a reach. I know it's a reach, but it's there.
Parallel. Yeah, I mean, anyway, I think. To be honest with you, the cliches and tropes that we have in this book, like I think the slow burn that she puts together is one of the best that I've read. Now, I'm going to go ahead and compare it to Love Hypothesis because that was one we both really enjoyed, and it's a slow burn. But we only got one sex scene with Love Hypothesis. Like, we only got that one
glimpse.
We got, I mean, really, it was just the one climax. Let's just use that word because we can, double entendre that. So you only get one scene of that. Whereas this book gives you a relationship within a slow burn. And like, I preferred that. Like, I watched them go from enemies to lovers to friends to like, obviously there are feelings here, even if they're just physical. And now we're banging and then we talk about it and then we bang again. Like, I liked that.
I normally don't like it when an author does this, but I would love to see this book from Gus's point of view.
Yeah, I think it would be hot. Like Gus would, but I do worry.
A lot of torment. I think there's a lot of torment on the Gus side, right?
But I do worry if we got that, we would have a situation of Breaking Dawn where
I swear to God,
Not Breaking Dawn.
Midnight Sun.
Midnight Sun, where now I don't really like Edward as well, because I was like,
I don't think that would be the case here.
He's a creeper.
I mean, I don't know this author's writing very well, but I don't feel like, based off of her writing, I don't think so. Like, Stephenie Meyers' writing grew and changed as she published more books. I don't know her writing, but I feel like her writing, since this is her first book, this feels consistent, right? It feels like a solid style that she has worked out. Stephenie Meyers was a slow burn developing, right?
No, I don't even. No, they were insta love.
No, I mean like her growth as a author was a slow burn.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I don't know.
A gradual thing.
I have now read all 3 books that we're going to read this season and the sequel to the 3rd book that we're going to read this season. And of the 3 of them, this is my favorite. Even if you include the 4th bonus book, I really liked January and Gus. I don't like the name January. I understand the whole
woman, January. Your name is a month too.
I don't like my name either.
Oh, okay. Well, then your feelings are
valid. But at least my name is like an actual name. Like, besides January Jones, who else do you know that's named January? Nobody. To me, that was the placeholder. I'm sure
it's in the census somewhere. We can look it up.
Yeah. Well, but I loved Gus. I loved it. All right, so let's go on to the next one. January's family has secrets that she doesn't find out about until her dad dies. Gus's family has secrets that he lived through. Did you find both sets of secrets believable? And do you think the secrets influenced their individual writing?
I think Gus was broken from his his childhood and what was going on. And his writing is definitely the writing style of someone that is tortured, right? The tortured artist. He is the quintessential
dark and twisty
tortured artist. I think her having a crisis of identity after learning the truth about her father is very relatable.
Yeah.
I think all of this is realistic. None of it feels like out of the, like, all of this could, if I talked to a stranger and they told me this was their story, like January's story was their story, I'd believe it. Right?
Yeah.
Because
secret families happen.
Yes. And like, I mean, I've talked about it before and I'll talk about it again. I had a childhood full of trauma. Gus's childhood trauma sounds very relatable to a lot of people I've known from different support groups and that whatnot. It all is very believable. And in books like this, where you're throwing in a bunch of tropes and stuff, it's nice to have the believable storyline. But when even for authors, look, being a published author is hard. 2 people being published authors from the same school and the same class, and like they were in the same writing class, even though he was a senior and she was a sophomore, feels like a stretch. But
was that the case? I thought they were the same year.
No, I think he was a couple years older. I think he's a little bit older.
I think you're thinking of Fangirl.
I don't have the book on me. I don't have the physical hard copy to prove you wrong. But
damn.
I'm that strong. I feel like he's ahead. I feel that strong about my opinion. I really do think he was older. I think
I just remember the conversation, like the part where she was talking about they lived in the same dorm.
Yeah. Yeah,
that doesn't usually happen.
But they were in a class together, and she was talking about how he was a senior, and because she was talking about how Shadi and her would talk about how all the sophomores liked him, and he wouldn't give anybody the time of day.
That's because he liked her,
right?
He liked January,
right? But that was a whole different.
Well, I don't know. I can't tell you if you're right because I've read 4 books since then.
Now
I don't know.
Now I need to get on Amazon and look it up. Get the book. I don't not to be able to prove my point.
Well, it's fine. I have the physical book, so we'll look it up later and we'll put it in.
I'll heartedly admit if I was wrong, but I was pretty sure he was a different school year level. I really
can't remember. I can't remember.
Doesn't matter, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the secrets were really believable. I mean, secret families definitely happen. I really took an issue with her dad's secret coming out after he died. Like, to me, that just felt
It was selfish on his part.
Yeah, but when we get later in the book, and January actually has the conversation with the mistress, like the conversation that she's been trying to have since Jump, we find out that they were together when her parents were
separated.
They were separated. They were not divorced. They were separated. But, like, they never were intimate while he was with her mom.
It just feels selfish of him to, like, it's like I need to clear my conscience before I die kind of thing. And it feels very selfish.
Like, I had we were on a break moment. Like, yes. Okay, they were separated, like, maybe, yeah.
But are you Team Ross or Rachel?
Listen, as a kid watching that show, I was totally Team Rachel. That guy cheated. As an adult, I'm like, she literally broke up with him.
I don't recall it that way, but
she literally said,
I don't know,
we're done. And
that's right, she did say we're done. But I'm not a fan of Rachel, so I will always go against Rachel.
He says, how can this be it? And she's like, because it is. So, like, okay. Mm-hmm. This can't be the end, but it is. So it is. Yeah, they were on a break. Up. Yeah. I don't think you should go bang somebody the night you're on a break, but
absolutely not. But that's
whatever.
I mean, everybody feels differently, I guess.
If you need to heal with putting your dick in someone else, I don't know. Whatever. January, nope. Skipped a question. Which is a better trope? Enemies to lovers or friends to lovers?
Enemies to lovers. I love enemies to lovers. You have more to overcome.
Yeah. So
and you get witty banter with enemies to lovers.
So I like that they're frenemies. Like, right. I had a frenemy in high school that we were in the same journalism program, and we actually went to rival colleges to study journalism, and like we were we were frenemies, and actually went on a couple of dates in college because it was always there. That deep loathing of somebody,
there's still sexual tension with deep loathing.
Yeah. It never went anywhere with the two of us because we were obviously not
compatible.
Wasn't meant to be. Right. We were not compatible for other reasons, but yeah, I love a good enemies to lovers. Like, I think this one does it really well. They've always had that sexual tension, and they've always kind of been frenemies, and you had to bang that out eventually, I guess.
I mean,
I guess.
Except for our mutual frenemy. That is not a bang out kind of situation.
No. No.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. She's not a frenemy, though. She's not a frenemy, though. She was a frenemy. Now she's not a friend at all.
She hasn't unfriended my husband on Facebook or blocked him.
I have nothing to say to that because I unfriended her a long time ago. So.
She just mysteriously disappeared one day. Anyway, back to questions because we're spilling secrets.
Yeah. Shit talking with Molly and April.
I mean, you're good at that too.
It's true. January talks about how her books are considered women's fiction.
I hate that fucking title. Sorry.
And I want to read this quote on page 68. All right. I scoffed. Here it was, the always ready anger rising like it had been waiting for an excuse. Yeah, well, you're not the only one who doesn't understand it. This is in reference to why she is women's fiction. Uh-huh. I said, I know how to tell a story, Gus, and I know how to string a sentence together. If you swapped out my Jessicas for Johns, do you know what you'd get? Fiction. Just fiction. Ready and willing to be read by anyone, but somehow, by being a woman who writes about women, I've eliminated half the Earth's population from the potential readers. And you know what? I don't feel ashamed of that. I feel pissed that people like you will assume my books couldn't possibly be worth their time, while meanwhile you could shart on live TV, and the New York Times would praise your bold display of humanity. All right, so. Is this publishing injustice? Is she right about this? I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
I actually wrote a whole paper about this, actually, in college when I was doing my fiction work. Because
You're totally prepared for this question.
The designator of women's fiction is a derogatory term. And I will say that to my dying days. It's treating women. We have to designate, if you have to put you have to put a gender in front of a book, you're automatically changing the view of how people view that book.
Right.
And we can't just call it fiction because we need to advertise towards women. Women are going to want to read this. Like, women's fiction automatically has different color. Like, they have color schemes set up for women's fiction only that are approved by massive publishing houses. When an author goes in and she is because it is always a she, she is designated a woman's fiction author. They go, okay, what do you want for your cover art? And she'll say X, Y, and Z. And they'll go, okay, this is your approved color scheme. And she can pick from those. Because women's fiction is supposed to be bright and fun and light. If you make women's fiction dark, it gives it a different indicator, right?
Right.
So I didn't plan those to be there. It just kind of was a helpful tool.
But good. It works for me.
It changes the shelf view of it for prospective buyers.
Well, I thought what was interesting was this book. I found this book, Beach Read, in the romance section of Barnes & Noble. And it's one of those books, if you're on YouTube now, you can see the cover art. It's one of the cartoony covers that are like really trending right now. Like, these are really popular covers. But I didn't think this book was a romance novel. To me, this was more like a women's fiction novel. I don't think that this belonged in the romance section. I think the only reason it was there was the cartoon cover and the sex.
Yeah.
But you can have sex that you find in regular fiction. Like, I don't know.
There's sex in all kinds of regular fiction. There's sex in murder mystery. There's sex in, like...
Right.
Sci-fi, fantasy.
And I don't know if it's because it wasn't cut to black, because it was, like, actually sex. But to me, this was, like... I would like to compare this to a better written Emily Giffin novel.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is a better written Emily Giffin
And she's
novel.
women's fiction.
Right. And that's why I use that as an example. Like, to me, I personally did not, I know you're a bigger fan of Emily Giffin. I personally do not like Emily Giffin, but as a whole, like, I've read a few of her books and I'm just like, it's not it for me. But in libraries, we don't have a women's fiction section. It's just fiction. But it's pretty obvious what books are in that section that are geared towards women. And it's going to be certain colors, and it's going to be certain authors that you know to look for. And I agreed with her that this was problematic.
There is, if I can find it, I will put it in the notes. There was an article from the early 2000s that talks about how publishing houses and agents would talk to authors, female authors, about making their names softer to make it more appealing.
Right.
So,
and I think we've talked about this before, the difference between like young adult and new adult. And I feel like this one, even though are they 30?
They're almost
she's turning 30 or something.
And he's over 30.
You're right, because it's his 30th birthday when it starts and she's 28. You're right.
Thanks. Thank you.
Listen, you act like I would never admit being wrong.
No,
but I am not. That's not how I roll. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Baby. I know that.
But yeah, so either she's 30 or he's 32 or something like that. One of those. But he's definitely 2 years older. But fuck, Molly.
We're talking about names. And women's fiction, and
I give up. I have no idea.
Please don't. We have a whole 23 more books to finish.
Well, I've got plenty of questions here. I just forgot what I was saying then. So we're just
okay. But
gonna move on.
But no, yes, we need to divide and conquer. Sorry,
new adult. I think this is still new adult, even though they are 30. That's where I found it. I found my point.
Your final point. I understand we need designators when it comes to dividing books because we can't just throw everything in one section and hope for the best. We need to be able to help and sort and divide. But it gets very... I'm trying to find the right word.
Well, I don't even think...
I don't want to say derogatory, but as an author, it feels derogatory sometimes when you're... told, like, as soon as you're told by anybody that you are women's fiction, where you're put, where you're shelved, where you're viewed is completely changed.
Well, all 3 of the books that we're reading this month, Beach Read, Matchmaker's List, and Happen One Summer, I bought them all 3 in the romance section. Matchmaker's List is
women's fiction.
It's not a romance novel.
No.
There is no, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no women's fiction section in Barnes & Noble.
That's
so
okay.
Authors like Colleen Hoover, who are writing stories that have sex in them, but are mostly like tragic drama, they're in the romance section now because social media has done that, right? So like the trending thing is now romance novels. Everybody's reading the romance novels.
We'll see all those. They'll make a new section called TikTok or social media influenced soon.
They already have that. When I was in Barnes and Nobles, they have completely redone the romance section. So now they have a historical romance section, which they've always had.
Right.
And they have spice talk. So it's the really spicy trending ones.
I can't.
That are on there. And then they have a whole table that's just book talk, which is not me. I'm not kidding you.
Oh, Jesus
and then they
Christ.
have like the remainder of the romance section, but they have a whole section that is spice talk now.
Okay.
And
let's just hope it doesn't make it to the Dewey Decimal System, huh?
It won't. That's not how we classify things in libraries. And also fiction isn't classified by Dewey, so
yeah.
But I have worked in libraries before that are genreified in the adult fiction section. And we had a romance section and a paranormal section, and I was in charge of stocking both of those. And let me tell you, that is fucking hard because there are so many fucking paranormal romances that I'm like, where the fuck do we put it? There's an alien or a vampire or a ghost paranormal romance, but it's both. Where the fuck? Anyway.
Just put the sections between each other. Just make a line of those books.
They were beside each other, and it was like either one.
Just
take your pick. Which one you want? All right. January's best friend Shoddy provides some comic relief in the dating department. Do you believe them as best friends?
Yes, I am very much Shoddy.
Molly, as I'm reading this, I'm going, oh, so this yin and yang is Molly and I.
Mm-hmm. I'm Shoddy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm January.
I love the way she describes Shoddy's relationships. She goes, I
love that they have nicknames for all the guys. They never call them by their name. I used to do this.
We have, when I was stationed in Houston, one of my office mates was recently divorced, and she would date, and we would do this. We had dubbed one of the guys she had dated, who was a reservist, who we called Ginger Cop. We called him Ginger Cop because we knew his name, but it was code for just in case, right?
Yeah.
But I love how much January loves her. Mm-hmm. That is my favorite part of this.
Yeah.
I could give a fuck less about their relationships. I love that January loves how Shoddy is in a relationship. Mm-hmm. I love that she supports Shoddy in these relationships.
Yeah.
I love how she embraces Shoddy as she is, who she is. That is friendship.
Yeah.
Clean and break. That is why our friendship works. You and I have a lot of different opinions on a lot of different things. And sometimes those are strong opinions and we don't agree. Do we respect each other? Yes. Do we agree on basic civil rights? Yes. But at the end of the day, our views can differ, but we still support each other and love each other as we are.
Right.
And I think that is I think you get romantic and platonic soulmates all the time.
Yeah.
It's a matter
They're each other's person for sure.
Yes. And Shoddy is her platonic soulmate.
I like when Shoddy calls her out and tells her, like, I've never actually seen you fall in love. And she's like,
she gets defensive.
She's like, I was with, I can't even think of his name, but I was with him, Jacques, right?
Jacques.
I was with him.
French Canadian or French?
Well, he was French because they talk about going to see his family. Yeah. She's like, I was with him for a really long time. Like, what do you mean I never fell in love? And she's like, you didn't fall in love. you are falling in love with Gus. Like,
right.
she calls her out on it
difference.
because she knows her. And like, there's something to be said about that. Like, you and I have been friends for a significant chunk of our lives. We've been friends while we've been married, though. So like, my other best friend that we've talked about before, Dawn, she's been my friend since middle school. So she's seen like parts of my life that like as an adult, no one would even know that. Like, why would they even know that part of my life?
But she's got you. Like, she's your forever thing, right?
Right. And I've told her before that she's the longest relationship I've ever had.
And like, that's okay.
I'm hers too. But, you know, it happens.
I mean, it happens.
What are you going to do? All right. So let's talk about Pete, Gus's aunt. Oh, Pete. Is she believable as a character in small town Michigan?
Yes.
Okay.
I grew up in a small town in upstate New York. Mm-hmm. And there was actually two sporadic gay couples. Mm-hmm. And they were like the community's gay couple. Right?
Community gays.
Community gays. Because, I mean, in a small town, being open and out in the 80s and 90s is hard enough.
Yeah. So I think the fact that it was a college community made it more believable. Like, I feel like small town Michigan, Upper Peninsula, when it's not a college community, like, I feel like they would have stuck out more. I could not read Pete without a Southern accent, even though she's from Michigan. Like, I don't know why I couldn't.
The audiobook kind of gives her a butch feminine, butch lesbian voice.
She needed a Midwestern twang, but I was reading her like she was from the deep South, and you know, she had that kind of drawl. But
it would fit.
Yeah, that's how I was reading her. I loved Pete. I think it's great that like she was like involved in their relationship, but like on the outside,
she's gonna help, but not a lot.
She's definitely, of course, the catalyst to how Gus in January finds out about Gus's life and his divorce and all that.
I'm wondering if Gus had talked about January in the past.
I'm sure
he did. Pete just like remembered and was like, oh, fuck yeah, I got a moment here to play. Like, well,
she invited them both to book club so that she could like
what a hit to the gut. You've been on the top.
She invited two authors. It wasn't covering either of their books.
Like, Times best-selling authors. Authors that have hit the top 10. And she's just treating them like fucking people.
Well, that's because they are. Like, it's her nephew.
Right, but January's a practical stranger, right?
Yeah, well, she didn't even stock January's books. So, like, she didn't, like, that's nothing to her. I don't know. I really liked her. I thought she was great.
I like her relationship and her dynamic with her nephew and her wife.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's dive into the love story.
Okay.
We learned throughout the story that January and Gus were college rivals, mostly because January decided so. Which is such an April move. Like, it's such an April move. Like, I hate you. We are now enemies.
I've decided people are my nemesis all the time. They don't know if they're my nemesis, but they are.
They don't need to know.
Our mutual friend, our mutual former frenemy. Mm-hmm. She's my nemesis.
Yes, I would agree. But we learn layer by layer that they both had feelings, or at least like crushes on each other, and there was like this weird
night sexually charged party.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
All right, does this change the enemies to lovers trope, or is it still like a cliche trope, or is this different from that?
It's still enemies to lovers because they are both like, in at least from January's point of view, in our narrator's point of view, it is enemies to lovers. If it was written from Gus's side, it would be a miscommunication trope, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So
he never really quite understood why she didn't like him.
Right. But also, in dumb boy fashion, he didn't directly come out and go, hey, I'm into you. Can I take you out to dinner?
Instead, he just like banged all her friends.
You know, because when I'm trying to get somebody I'm sexually attracted to into me, the first thing I do is sleep with all their people.
Makes sense. That's definitely your go-to move, for sure.
I mean, exactly. I mean, how else do you win favor amongst the group without showing them your glorious penis?
I mean, Yeah, give the people what they want.
Penis.
I just thought it was adorable that, like, she loathed him so much that she wouldn't read any of his books. Like, she just didn't do it. But he had read all of hers
her books.
And, like, actually, like, knew parts of it and could, like, quote parts of her books. Like,
because
he read them all.
Because he still has a thing for her. He's still hung up on her.
Well, I mean, his best friend, I cannot think of her name, but
I can't either.
But we think that it's a guy the whole time until we realize it's the best friend who's a girl. But she's not really comfortable with the fact that he's now with January.
No, because she's like, hey, dude, she fucked you up once. You're going to get more fucked up again.
Yeah, this is going to be bad for you.
But the problem is January had no idea she fucked him up, right? Like, she has no clue.
No, she was just like, whatever, fuck you, dude. He called her a princess. And she was like,
if he would have clarified that, I think that would have been like,
what he actually meant was, I want to be you. I want this, like, sunshine and rainbows point of view.
Right. Like, and instead he's just like, whatever, princess. And it's like, okay, well, that's fucking derogatory.
And he only ever critiqued her work because he thought she was so talented. Like,
everybody else was lesser than.
Yeah, he didn't want to read anybody's bullshit. He wanted to read January's, like, high quality writing. But he was like a dick about it.
Such a dick. But he thought he was helping her be better.
Skills.
Like, he thought he was helping her be better, and she's like, God, this guy's a fucking douchebag.
What's happening? Asshole.
Why is he so mean?
Oh, man. All right, there are so many fantastic lines about the way Gus's eyes dance and liquefy. Is Gus dream-worthy boyfriend material? Book boyfriend material?
He is definitely a book boyfriend. He goes on the book boyfriend list. However,
I think
he's lower on the list because he's high maintenance, man. He's going through a divorce. He's real dark and twisty. He's got this whole Christina Yang thing where he's like warm and opens up to you, and then he's fucking pushed off and won't fucking. He gives me such strong Christina Yang vibes that it gives you whiplash.
I read this line and texted you guys, you and Katie in our group chat. He cracked another smile, faint, like he'd rather not reveal it. It instantly made the car feel too small, him a little too close, and I was like, fuck! That's a good fucking line!
Yeah, it is.
And then, I have to say, like, I feel like I hit the husband jackpot because all of these writers are writing men who have the brown eyes, the brown hair, and they're all like grumpy to the sunshine of their counterpart girlfriends, wives, whatever. And like the men are always like weird at communicating, and
so
the women
married
are
your
just
book
like,
boyfriend is what you're telling me?
100%. Like, I won the jackpot because I married the husband that like everybody's writing. Like they're all writing my husband. So I was like, cool, I won.
Valid point.
I won. But Gus is definitely up there on the book boyfriend list for me now. Like, I still struggle with Maxim Shreve being my number one. Like, Chef's Kiss.
He's a child, though.
Well, I mean, he is, but like, he's not. He's 19 in that book. So
it still feels like a child to me here.
I feel like my book boyfriend list has become more age appropriate now because now I've started reading adult romance novels instead of YA. So I'm allowed to like them. And of course, I'm still obsessed with Edward Cullen, who's only 17, but he's actually 109. So it's okay.
Sure.
It's okay.
Sure.
Anyway.
Yes, he definitely can go on the book boyfriend list.
100%.
But he's definitely like on the needs improvement side. Like, needs to go to therapy. Check.
He was in therapy. He was doing the work.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about the sex. So they don't actually have sex for the first time until 242 pages into the novel.
Pretty deep.
Slow burn. But there are several close attempts. Huh?
We've had slower.
Yeah. There are several close attempts. The drive-in movie, On Her Couch, even that weird thing at Olive Garden where they were like...
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, what was happening there? So was this burn too slow, too fast, or just right?
I liked it.
I liked it too.
I liked it. It felt very realistic. I mean, think about when you're dating.
Yeah.
And, like, you almost hook up and then something happens, and then you almost hook up and then something happens, and then you almost hook up. Yeah, I forgot. I'm talking to you, but I love you, but in my experience,
I never like hooked up like sex, but I've been there where I've been like the sexual chemistry and like then we kiss kind of thing.
Right.
So
it's very believable.
I think
it's very believable.
Did you feel like the sex was a worthy payoff to the slow burn?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I as a writer, writing writers having sex against the bookshelf was like
oh no! I loved that. I love that she called him out on it. She was like, "Do you always like do this so you can look at your own books?" And like he's so into the sex that he doesn't even realize that she's just took another dig at him.
Yeah.
And then like after they're done, he's like, "Did you really fucking ask me that?"
It just, and I love that she mocked it. Like,
I know, it was amazing.
There are several times in this book where she's like, I know I'm writing a cliche, and let's dive in deeper to it.
Yep.
Right? Let's just lean into it.
It's like Love Hypothesis where she's like, there's only going to be one bed. Like, I know there's only going to be one bed. Like, it's just, it
happens.
We have to be aware. Yeah. So anyway, I liked it. I thought it was a better payoff than things like Love Hypothesis because it did have more than one like actual intimate scene. The book that we're going to read at the end of this month had a lot of banging. It was a lot. But I thought it was good. And I really enjoyed their chemistry, and I liked how the sexual tension built. Like it started with that weird Olive Garden, like, weirdness.
Yeah.
And then it like built to like, now we're making out in a car, and now we're making out on her couch. And like, I love that when they have sex for the first time, he doesn't have a condom because like, why would he bring a condom to her basement? Like, why would I just like roll up here in your basement with a condom? Like, I love that. I loved that. Man, I really liked this book. I feel like I'm hogging this episode.
No, it's okay.
All right, there are several underlying stories in this book. January's dad, Gus's abusive father, Gus's divorce, January's breakup with the long-term asshole boyfriend, Shaddy's random relationships, the mom, yeah. Were there any that you felt didn't belong, or did you feel they helped to drive the story?
I feel like I felt like there was a lot going on, but I'm going to defend it.
Oh, okay.
While, yes, there was a lot of sub-stories going on, I feel like she worked them in appropriately. She didn't lean heavy too much into A, B, C, or D. All of those sub-stories had equal time and were in appropriate manners. Like, the whole dad letter things, I feel like she placed that perfectly in that story. Yeah. It wasn't too soon. It wasn't too late into the story.
It was a good build to it.
It was a good build to it, and it didn't go on. She didn't get on. It wasn't this whole long thing. She skipped around in the letters.
Right. I feel it felt inevitable, but it didn't feel unnecessary
and it didn't feel forced.
Right. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I mean, I could have done without the mistress living in the town. I think that was unnecessary.
And was friends with Pete, and Pete somehow wouldn't know who January was. Like, to me, that felt
that was a little unbelievable. Yeah, that was a little unbelievable. Yeah. But overall, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Like, I've seen a lot of stories. I've read a lot of stories where there are just too many unnecessary details. Right. There's too many sub-stories. There's too many, and you're losing the whole point of the book.
Right.
We get dark on both sides. We get struggle. We get pain. We get tears. Right. But we still get joy, and we still know the whole reason of this book. Her main idea and her whole point never gets lost once, and that is a hard feat when you put that many kind of stories in here.
Yeah, she did a really good job weaving it together. Like,
yes,
I agree with
absolutely.
You. I really had an issue, and I did ring my bell. I don't know if you heard me, but I did have an issue.
I was talking a lot, though, but yeah, I heard you.
Girl, you're okay. With Pete not knowing who January was, knowing that. Like, that to me, like, this girl is your friend and in your book club, and you don't know about the man she's seeing. Like,
for her high school sweetheart. Right. That she was fucking on the side.
Right. And
you've been friends with her this long? Absolutely you do. Pete was just playing dumb. Pleat was paying fucking dumb.
Yeah, that to me was like that was really hard to believe. But for the rest of it, I felt like it did a really good, and this is again why I say that this to me isn't a romance novel. It's more of literary, it's more fiction to me. She just did such a good job of blending these stories together. Absolutely. And I think she did such a good job of the two main characters of January and Gus. They have parallel trauma. Like hers may have happened later. It was happening her whole life. She didn't realize it, but it was. She finds out later. Gus has the childhood trauma, but they both did 180s, right? So Gus was going to try. So he got married and he tried. And
he went still got the happily ever after.
Yeah. Right. And he still got fucked over. So he was still struggling with like,
exactly,
you know, whereas January went from like everything is sunshine and rainbows and happily ever after. And oh my gosh. That part where Gus quotes her dedication to her parents in the first book. Oh my gosh. Man, that book was just, this was a good book. Yes. Okay. Anyway, yeah.
I like that you got close, like it was a secret.
It was a secret. Like, I need to tell all of you gather round, read this book.
Come here, little children.
Come here. Not children. Don't read this book.
No, absolutely not kids.
Grown-ups, read this book. All right, so the ending. All right, we love spoilers on Book Besties. If you're new to our pod.
I have a whole list of spoilers I want to cover.
We just talk about spoilers. I'm sorry. We're not sorry about it. No. Sorry, not sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want to hear the ending spoilers, skip ahead a little bit because we're going to talk about it.
I mean, we already talked about a bunch of it, but whatever's.
Yeah. So I've talked about in previous episodes how I don't care for the engagement end cliche. But I like a happily ever after, but like I just don't feel like they need to end engaged. Like I don't feel like that always needs to be happily ever after. Like you could just be in a relationship. So that's where it looked like the book was going, like they were just going to end up in a relationship together. But then we have this part where they actually do get engaged. And my thing is, like Gus was saying that he was looking for a happily ever after, but didn't necessarily need that to be marriage. So I'm not reading what I wrote here, so I'm skipping around and now I'm confused. All right, how do you feel about the ending being that they got engaged in front of the people they loved? In a note. So that's a throwback to like what they're writing. Was this cliche? I mean, what do you think? I
liked it. Oh, excuse me. I liked it. And I liked that they gave them, it was like 9 months later or something, right? It was like
I think it was like a year later or something.
Like she was about to do a big book event or something, right?
And it was his birthday because he just wanted to go to the beach. Right. And the book starts with it being his birthday because they have a party.
Because she exchanged her arc with his finished product, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so for those of you that don't know, books go through a lot of processing before it even gets to the final cut.
Right.
And in that, you go from edited to raw book to editor 1, editor 2, sometimes editor 3, 4. It depends on your editor and your publishing house. He had his finished copy that the editor had approved everything. And
but not an arc. This was not an arc. So it was bound together, they talk about.
So the arc means the publishing house has approved it. Mm-hmm. The one he's holding means his editor approved it. And now that we've clarified publishing 101, they swapped.
Mm-hmm. And they spend the day reading.
They spent the day reading it, which was super cute. And like his ending is, even though I think he lost the bet, like that's not a happy ending, dude. That's not a happy ending. That's not just because you think they're happy dying. No.
Right. Your characters died together. So no.
I think she definitely won that bet. What was I getting to? What was my point? I'm sorry.
Did you think that was cliche that they got engaged at the end?
No, I don't. It felt very much them. It felt very much like they were taking it slow too, because she was living in an apartment, and
I mean, it was a little cliche that it was in a note, like they used to write the notes together when they were writing. Notes, yeah, like that was a little cliche. I didn't mind the engagement this time.
It was cute.
To me, it felt. I mean, I think it could have just ended with them being like together because that would have been fine. Like, I don't think they needed to get engaged. Also, we never know when Gus has finalized his marriage, like his divorce. So, like, he's still married.
I just kind of skipped over that.
Yeah, so we're assuming he's divorced at that point.
I was assuming too, yeah.
I mean, especially by the way he like spills his guts out to her in the rain, because of course it was the rain. Like, it had to be them dancing in the rain because that's the shit that she writes, and he swore he would never do it. It's that full circle. I loved it. I actually had a note to myself here that I gave it a 4.5 on Goodreads, not a 4. Okay. So Goodreads doesn't allow you to do halves. So I gave it a 4.5, but I think it actually on Goodreads is rated a 4 because to me it wasn't perfection, and I very rarely give the 5s.
Yeah, that's true.
But I ended up changing my rating of a book that we're going to talk about later this month because I didn't want it to be the same rating on Goodreads as Beach Read because I thought Beach Read was better.
Nice.
Even though I tend to estimate, I tend to round up, except when it's going to be a 5. But anyway, it was the story that the disconnect about her dad, like that was what kept it from being a 5 for me. But I really enjoyed it. I didn't mind them getting engaged at the end, even though like I didn't think that was necessary. I didn't mind it.
Right.
All right. So, did you have any favorite lines? Like, I have so many. Did you have any?
I wrote one down, and I can't remember where it's from because of absurdly specific details. I know that's a Gus thing, but I can't remember why it's a Gus thing.
Gosh.
There's a lot of good one-liners. Shoddy has a lot of great one-liners. Shoddy's freaking hilarious.
She is really funny. Oh, this is a good one. And this is shout out to Nurse Katie, too, because she texted us this. You never get the paper umbrellas you were promised in the world. That's Gus. And she says, Gus, I said, you must be the paper umbrellas you wish to see in the world. Gandhi was a wise man. That's his response.
Yes. Foot job. You got to read Foot job.
Oh, my gosh. I don't have that part marked.
It's right
that
in
was
the beginning.
Freaking hilarious. It was freaking hilarious.
You know what? No, read the book. Go get the book. Read it yourself. Then you can hear the foot job part.
Oh my gosh. It's so funny. I like this. This is the part where he says love you, but like we don't really acknowledge it.
Yeah.
You're sick and twisted, January Jones. January Jones. You're sick and twisted, January Andrews. Gus said, "That's what I love about you." Yeah. And we're just gonna let that dangle there.
Yeah,
we're just gonna let it dangle.
It just sat there. It just
really
just
sit there. And oh my gosh, like I just really, because even though he would probably never learn to dance in the rain, it was Gus I wanted. Only Gus. Exactly Gus. Oh! And then this one, this is it. This is at the end, too. I've never met someone who is so perfectly my favorite person.
That is Matthew Biggs for me.
See, that's Tom for me.
That's
it's
Matthew
100%
Biggs.
him.
Perfectly my favorite person.
Perfectly my favorite person.
Do I hate him sometimes? Absolutely.
But see, that's the thing. Like all these imperfections,
but he's still my
he's still
person.
Perfect for me. Right?
He's
exactly.
Still my favorite person.
Yes. And perfectly my favorite person. Yeah. All right, let me see if I can find the foot job part, and then you go ahead and what things did you want to talk about?
I have one thing. I have two things. I'm gonna go light then heavy because
I found it.
Okay, do the foot job, and then we'll go from there. Do the foot job.
I'm not doing the foot job, Molly.
I'm telling Tom.
Oh my gosh. So this is page 10 and 11. Like this is right jump. Okay. Let's see.
Shadi was talking about getting off of work.
Right.
For 4th of July.
4th of July. And she's talking about, this is January says that she probably won't get her license back because she's out of state. And Shadi was a terrible driver. She screamed whenever she turned left. Besides, you know how scheduling off is in this industry. I'm lucky my boss said I could have the 4th of July. For all I know, he's expecting a blowjob now. No way. Blowjobs are for major holidays. What you've got on your hands is a good old-fashioned foot job quid pro quo.
Right. Blowjobs are for major holidays.
It's just foot jobs for minor holidays.
Want Memorial Day off? Foot job.
Foot job.
Christmas, on the other hand, you better be ready to put out.
Yep. Yeah.
There's two things that we didn't cover I want to talk about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
One is, can't remember Pete's wife's name.
Fuck, I can't either.
Her famous punch, okay? I want to go over what's in this punch, and then I know how to fix it.
Get drunk punch, that's what it is.
So, in this punch, specifically, is vodka, coconut rum, blue curacao, tequila, pineapple juice, and a splash of regular rum. Okay, first and foremost, that thing will light on fire. Secondly, there is ways to fix this. All this alcohol is fine, but we need to even it out a little bit. So, on top of the pineapple juice, I'm going to tell you to put a whole thing of soda in it. I don't care if it's Sprite, Mountain Dew, orange soda. Put fucking a whole 2 liter of soda in there if you're making this punch. A whole 2 liter of soda.
Her name is Maggie, by the way.
Maggie's punch, yes. Maggie's punch. Okay, and then I want to jump into my heavy thing.
By the way, Molly is good at mixing drinks, so trust her on this.
Like, do not make what Maggie says. You have
That's how you die.
That's how you die. You come to me and I will help you fix this punch. I have friends who specifically will message me if they're like a alcohol recipe isn't working out, and they'll be like, "Hey, how do I fix this?" And I'm like, "I got you. Listen here.
I got you, boo.
Boo, I got this." Okay, so chapter 19.
Okay.
We're talking about her mom's meltdown. January remembers her mom melting down, talking about how she was 42 and she feels like her life is over. Now, I want to talk about this for a second because this is very much a stay-at-home mom thing. As a stay-at-home parent, I'm going to get serious for a second. As a stay-at-home parent, there are times where our lives become dedicated to others.
Yeah.
Your life is your children, your spouse, your home, and you lose little bits of yourself. And I feel this all the time, and I tell Matt this. I have this podcast, but I do not have much that is just mine.
Just yours, yeah.
And that hit really hard. That whole, I feel like my life is over thing. If a stay-at-home mom tells me she's ever felt that way, I'll feel like she hasn't been a stay-at-home mom for very long.
She's lying. That's what the truth is.
She's lying to herself as well, right? Not even just moms, stay-at-home parents in general. This is a feeling that is universal.
Yeah.
When you dedicate yourself 100%. To others and put yourself on a second level, it takes a part of you away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should January as a child heard that? No. That is a guilt no child should hear. It has nothing to do with them.
No. Right.
But it is something we as parents have to figure out how to work out.
Yeah.
Right? And, I mean, this was what, the 90s? So, like, therapy wasn't as, like, such a big deal back then. And people weren't going to therapists as much. And it was just a shut up and take it kind of thing. And I don't know what my point is here. My point is I see her mom. I get her mom in that moment. Right. I don't understand why her mom wouldn't talk to her about the mistress. That was a whole weird thing for me, but
I think she just didn't know how to deal with the fact that her life was a lie.
Like, and was imploding at the funeral of her husband. Yeah.
I mean, I think she felt like her life was a lie. Like she dedicated her life to her
this
husband.
Man.
Yeah.
And he was in love with his high school sweetheart.
I don't think he was ever in love with the other woman.
You don't think so?
No, I really don't. I think maybe
she was in love.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he was. I think he had the you'll be good enough love for her. But I don't think he had the same love that
forever
he had
love.
For his wife.
That's all I got.
Well, I mean,
I didn't mean to end on the heavy. So foot job, so I can just bring the energy back up.
Man. All right, let's we're over an hour. I'm sorry guys, but we tend to do that. So, this edition of Beach Read has a plug from Jasmine Gilroy. I thought you would like that.
I love that.
Yeah, because I know you like her. So, all right. So we did Beach Read today. So here's what we've got coming up next week. We are going to read Matchmaker's List by Sonia Lally, I think is how you say her name.
I think so.
She's hearted
Canadian?
some of this and commented on some of our social media. So that's kind of cool. So this is a Molly pick. She's writer. Canadian, yes. And it does take place in Canada. Mm-hmm. And then we are going to wrap out the month with It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. And I've gone ahead and read the sequel. This is the sequel, Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. Of course you did. Well, I mean, they're more companion novels than like sequels because the sisters they're sisters. Okay. And the men they're with are best friends. So like that's where the connection is. But
mildly incestual, but okay.
I mean, it happens. Like
I know. My grandparents married siblings. Like my grandfather and his brother married sisters.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens. Also small towns, so you know.
Yeah. Well, this is taking place in a small town too. But anyway, so that's what we're going to wrap the month up with. And then in August, we're going to go back to like our normal, like whatever regular the fuck we feel program. Like reading. Yeah. And we have my friend Florida Megan. Florida Megan will be on in August to talk about the Night Circus, which she's reading currently and has never read. I picked this one, and I picked it because it is a historical fantasy that I like, because Molly keeps picking all this historical fiction. To
clarify, she's talking about historical fantasy, not historical fiction. I want this clarified for documentation purposes, because she's going to be mad when I don't like it, and she's going to be like, this is historical fantasy. I thought you liked it, Molly.
I didn't like Addie Rue, and that was historical fantasy. Right. So I was trying to give you a piece of historical something or other that I liked. Okay.
I appreciate that. Don't worry. Piper Biggs has already stocked us up for the next season. She's handed me 3 books. She's demanding to be on pod for 4.
For those of you that want to peek behind the curtain, Molly and I have planned out what we're reading for the rest of the year. We actually have my friend Florida Megan's. Yeah, my friend Florida Megan, we haven't read all these books.
Right, no, absolutely fucking not.
And we haven't filmed the episodes. But Florida Megan is coming on in August. And then in September, we have Alexa. I think her handle on Instagram is Cozy Blanket Reads.
Yeah, I think
she'll be on in September to talk about, I just want to make sure that that's her name. Cozy Blanket Reads, Alexa. She'll be on in September to talk about one of her favorite books. Tag it in the
notes too.
Yeah, and in October we have an independent author coming on to talk about her series. Her final book in the series comes out in November. And we're just reading the
first one, right?
We're gonna read and talk about the first one, but the series as a whole, she's gonna talk about.
Wonderful, because she's writing her final one's gonna be coming out.
It comes out in November, yeah. And in November, Chezzy's coming back, and then in December we have another bookstagrammer. So like we will have guests from August to December.
It's a packed season.
It's a packed season, but I'm excited because like these are people that love books like we love books. These are people that have social media followings, and you know we're building our social media following, and you know we're growing, and we're getting to see them grow. Like it's going to be really fun. I think it'll be fun. And then people are trying to give us books, and we're like, well, it has to go in season 4 because
I've already told Piper it's stashed for 4. We have a list. By the way, my list is like this long to fill season 4. So all my TBR list isn't even going to fit in season 4.
Yeah. I've stopped creating a TBR because my list is just like the pod list. Like here's what I can read for the pod.
That's what I'm saying. It's not even a TBR anymore. It's just a pod list.
Yeah. So. But we've been betrayed by Book Talk and Bookstagram.
Oh, by the way, don't tell me you've read a book, you got a book off Book Talk and you're in love with it.
Love Hypothesis was really good.
That's one.
Beach Read was really good. 4. Beach Read was really good.
Okay, I didn't know Beach Read was from Book Talk, so... Okay, I think that's it for the day. I ain't got nothing else.
We've gone over an hour. Fuck.
That's okay. What else is
Happy first episode of season 3, Molly.
Happy season 3 in April.
Love you.
I love you. Bye, guys. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Book Besties. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The views discussed here are those of Molly and April, not those of anyone else. Today's book was Beach Read by Emily Henry. Your Book Besties are Molly Biggs and April Watkins. Editing by Thomas Watkins. And music is Sleep Sweetly by Brigida. Don't forget to follow Book Besties on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. If you would like to contact the Book Besties, please email us at bookbestiespod@gmail.com.